Welcome back to Worldview. For more than 8 years, our next guest worked inside the belly of the Fox News channel beast as an associate producer on the Bill O'Reilly show, The O'Reilly Factor. After graduating from Notre Dame and striking out in the job market, Joe Muto sent an audacious cover letter for a web writing job to the folks at Fox News. It instead got the attention of programming executives, and he was invited to interview for a job as a production assistant. Joe had a dilemma. He desperately needed work, but described himself as a liberal, and here he was set to enter the conservative world of Fox News. Well, he held his nose and buried his head, rising through the ranks from production assistant to associate producer on Bill O's show. Then in 2011, it all got to be too much for him, and the thought of working another election cycle there made him plan his exit strategy. The execution of that strategy left a lot to be desired. He met up with the folks at Gawker magazine, the website, and found himself working for them as the now infamous FOXHOLE. Now, Gawker published his articles, and 36 hours later, Muto was discovered, fired, and threatened with lawsuits, and indeed he faced criminal prosecution by the New York District Attorney. All of this was penned in the soon-to-be best-selling book released 3 weeks ago by Dutton Penguin called An Atheist in the Foxhole, a liberal's 8-year odyssey inside the heart of the right-wing media. And he's here now today to talk about it all. Joe Muto, welcome to Worldview.
Thanks so much for having me.
Joe, the book does a great job of laying out what you did as the FOXHOLE for Gawker. And I think the basic question most are going to have is, why did you do it?
Well, as I said earlier, not a well-thought-out plan. I was flying by the seat of my pants. This all started in late 2011. I decided that I could no longer work at the network. It was just not, it had gone too far to the right for me, and it was just not a place I wanted to be anymore. And, I always knew that it was conservative leaning. I mean, I have eyes and ears, and when I started the job, I was like, yeah, I'll give it a few months and see if it bothers me, and then maybe I'll find something else. But but it really never bothered me until after Obama was elected. Then I thought the network took a very bizarre and scary in some ways right turn. And I was growing increasingly uncomfortable staying there. So in late 2011, I decided I wanted to leave. And part of my looking for another job, I didn't want to leave and have no job. So in my search for another job, I ended up with the Gawker people. I ended up meeting with them. And, it was my idea to write for them. I said, I'd love to write for you guys, that'd be, I'll leave Fox and I'll come write for you, and it'll be great, and maybe I'll talk about my experience at Fox when I'm writing for you. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll parcel it out in a little, in little bits. And the Gawker people said, well, why don't you write for us right now while you're still at Fox? And I go, sure, great idea. Like my dumb ego kicked in, and I said, oh, people are going to love that. That's great. So it was stunty, but I thought, I thought ingratiating myself with the Gawker people was a good way to, get a job for post Fox. So, and also I thought that I'd get away with it. I thought that I would post a few dumb, gossipy items, and some people would laugh at it, and it would probably escape larger notice within Fox and within the outer world, and I would leave after a few weeks and go work for my new employer. So, that was how it all played out in my head. Obviously, how it played out in real life was quite different.
Let's talk a little bit about Roger. You say Fox doesn't push a message. Rather, it is gravitationally pulled by Roger Ailes and then pushed down their simplified management structure. Walk me through how a story meme is created and it then permeates all Fox News Channel coverage.
Well, the way the shows work at Fox is they're pretty autonomous. They get, they're allowed to go off in their own direction and pursue the stories they want to pursue. So, if what would happen is, though, every day the shows have to send a list of their topics and their guests, to the management. It gets reviewed by people at the vice president level, basically. So they're looking at that, and if there's something on there they don't like, they'll hear about it. You know, they'll email you, they'll call you, they'll say, you know, you can't do this topic, you can't have this guest, that kind of thing. So there is a level of autonomy, but it's very heavily regulated, and you know, there are certain times when guests are just banned. There are certain guests who are just straight up banned from the network.
Like Bill Maher.
Bill Maher is banned from the network. For a while, I don't know if it's still the case or if they've been allowed back on, but for a while, any reporter from Politico.com, any reporter from there was banned.
Why is that?
That's the thing. Nobody knew. They wouldn't tell us. You know, there was speculation. You know, someone had written. My guess is someone had written an article that had pissed off Ailes or pissed off one of the more powerful anchors, but they wouldn't tell us, and it was, you know, it was very inconvenient for us because Politico is a great organization in that they have a lot of reporters who are smart and they make themselves available at all hours. You know, you can call them and have them on your show 20 minutes later. They're very good at like getting you people. So that was very inconvenient for us to have them banned. A lot of liberals are banned from the network, especially like the stronger ones. You know, like if you can make a good argument for the liberal side, you're not allowed on the network. They never say that's why they're not allowed on the network, but that's my theory. They'll always come up with another reason, you know, for why they're banned. But it's my theory is it's that, you know, they're too good at making the other side's arguments.
At some point in time, you did get a promotion, and there's a great exchange between you and your high school friend Matt in a bar, where you ask him point blank, did I trade away my integrity for some health benefits and 74 cents an hour? To which his reply was, no, you did that already when you took the job in the first place. Why did you do it, becomes the question.
Why did I take the job in the first place?
Why did you stay and move up the ladder?
You know, broadcasting is very seductive, you know? It's a very exciting field to be in. And you know, I think I write about how exciting it was the first day. I was in the control room when we got word that the actor Marlon Brando died, and the rush to sort of confirm this news was such an thrilling entry into this world. So that, I think, more than anything, made me want to stick around, and you know, I'd see where it went. You know, now there were applications to other places along the way, but it was always like, you know, nothing ever came up enough to make me want to leave Fox. You know, I was in, and I was doing well there. I was getting promoted. I kept moving on to progressively more challenging jobs and challenging shows, and then I ended up on O'Reilly's show, which is the top of the heap at Fox. I mean, that's the best place to be. That's, you know, you've sort of made it. You're top of the mountain if you're on O'Reilly's show. So I guess it was, you know, the carrot was dangling in front of me the entire time, and by the time I decided I wanted to leave, I'd been there for so long, it sort of seemed, you know, it probably seems to outside people ludicrous that I stayed that long, but you know, you blink your eyes and 8 years have gone by. Now,
Joe, you say in the book that you actually like Bill O'Reilly, as does Jon Stewart, and you say he's not an ideologue, but that he's ideological and very smart, versus the buffoon many try to portray him as. Now, it feels like shades of gray here, so help me understand Bill.
He's, I compare him to, like, your conservative uncle, you know, who you have to deal with at Thanksgiving. You know, like, you might roll your eyes at everything he says, but there's still an affection there, you know? And even all these months later, I still, you know, I'll be flipping through channels and see him, and I'll be like, oh yeah, there he is. You know, there's my guy. You know, so that being said, there are some foibles, I think, that it would not surprise people to hear about him. He is pretty volcanic in his anger, especially at his staff, and often for not a lot of, you know, often for a very small transgression, you know, like if you mess up his lunch order, you know, he's going to scream at you. Basically, it's not, and it's scary because it means everyone on the staff is walking on eggshells and they're afraid to tell him anything because you never know how he's going to react. He might shrug it off, or he might get in your face and scream at you. So it makes for a pretty tense work environment sometimes.
Now, there's someone who we know would not agree that there's any niceness about him at all, and that's the feud that was on between him and Keith Olbermann. It was ugly. It was personal on both sides. Bill, though, was smart enough to disarm it, saying it was just giving Keith ratings and traction and extra material. And it ended up at one point with Jeff Immelt of GE and Rupert Murdoch ordering that a truce be called. What broke that truce? How did the truce actually start? What was it like to live through being there during that?
Well, I should say it took Bill almost 2 years, I think, to realize that he was giving Olbermann all this oxygen. Meanwhile, Olbermann's ratings just crept up and up and up. Eventually what happened, it started getting ugly. It started getting personal as Bill would go after Jeffrey Immelt at GE, the parent company of NBC at the time, and Olbermann would start going after Ailes and start going after Murdoch. And, eventually that got the attention of, obviously, the people in the executive suites. And they did. They brokered this truce. These two bigwigs, Murdoch and Immelt, sat in a room and said, ceasefire. And if I recall, I think Olbermann was the first one to break the ceasefire. And it was a weird time. It was a tense time to be on the show, because once again that was people interfering with Bill's show, which he hated. But this was coming from, when this was coming from Murdoch himself, Bill was not going to, be the first one to break the peace, I guess.
Yeah. Whereas, and that's part of the reason why he's still there, and Keith is no longer where he is. I would venture that has something to do with it.
Right. Bill has a prickly relationship with the executives, but he knows when to stop, whereas I would say Olbermann did not.